Look at this smile. Look closely at his face. He is sitting in a police interrogation room. No crying, no panicking, just smiling. Because he and his brother have just eliminated their family at 709 Magnolia Court. Welcome to Dr. Noir channel, where we speak about psychocrime and neuroscience. Today, we are going to decode the minds of 18-year-old Robert Bever and his 16-year-old brother, Michael. Are they cold executioners looking for fame, or the broken victims of a household monster abuser? 5 people, their parents, their 2 younger brothers, and their 5-year-old sister, Victoria, were brutally taken. Their 13-year-old sister miraculously survived, and their 2-year-old sister was found unharmed upstairs. Both brothers were subsequently arrested, charged, and sentenced to spend the rest of their lives behind bars. But let's take a step back to look at what life was like in the Bever house before the tragedy. To the world, the Bevers were ghosts. The parents, David and April, homeschooled all 7 children and kept them in total radical isolation. Neighbors didn't even know their names. But behind closed doors, a regime of severe physical and verbal terror was unfolding. Court testimonies from their own relatives later confirmed the horror, describing a father who subjected his children to constant, brutal humiliation and violent punishments. This radical isolation and continuous trauma are the exact breeding grounds where a criminal mind is born. When a child's mind is starved of connection and flooded with terror, its perception of reality breaks completely. The execution of Robert and Michael's plan was chillingly calculated, but their dark mission was supposed to go much further. Investigators later discovered that eliminating their family was just the beginning. The brothers planned to pack the bodies in storage bins, steal the family car, and launch a cross-country shooting spree. They wanted to attack random public places, hoping to rival the Columbine massacre and achieve a body count of over 500 people, just to become famous. Their plan failed only because the police ambushed them in the woods behind their house, minutes after the attack. When detectives questioned 18-year-old Robert after his arrest, his response shocked the investigators. He openly discussed the murder of his father, not with remorse, but with a terrifying sense of joy and total satisfaction. To his warped psyche, pulling that trigger was the ultimate act of liberation from a lifetime of systematic degradation. There is no excuse for what happened, but let's try to understand how severe childhood abuse can contribute to fabricating a criminal mind. The first question I had was, why the innocent siblings? I will give you the hypotheses I found in science. In forensic psychiatry, we look beneath their narcissistic desire for fame to find a deeper shattered psychology. When a child is trapped in a domestic war zone, 2 dark survival mechanisms can emerge in the subconscious. First, a volatile resentment festering, because the younger siblings may have avoided the older brothers to escape the father's wrath, leaving them feeling completely abandoned. Second, a phenomenon known as distorted compassionate erasure. To Robert and Michael's broken minds, ending the lives of their younger brothers and sister was a sick, desperate attempt to save them from the father's abuse, permanently protecting them from a future of inevitable pain. My other personal idea is that by eliminating the entire family, Robert wanted to kill and liberate the part of himself that could remind him of the abuse. Now, let's look at it from a scientific point of view. Clinical studies published on PubMed tracking the neurobiology of severe trauma prove that chronic stress floods the nervous system with toxic levels of cortisol. Neuroimaging data reveals that this toxic flood physically shrinks the hippocampus, the brain's emotional center, while severely overactivating the amygdala, shutting down the prefrontal cortex responsible for logic. The brain is forced to adapt to a violent world, switching off empathy to protect itself. Furthermore, a monumental 30-year longitudinal study funded by the National Institute of Justice and conducted by Dr. Herringcole confirms this exact link between child maltreatment and adult crime. Tracking children from preschool to adulthood, The data shows that victims of childhood abuse undergo a devastating cycle of violence. The research reveals that violence and antisocial behavior become a normalized coping skill to adapt to a hostile environment. In the Bever Brothers case, the father's abuse literally installed a violent, criminal program in their subconscious. They didn't just snap. Their brains were systematically rewired to see massive bloodshed as their only accessible escape route. Now that I have laid out the clinical facts, I want to share my personal opinion with you, not just as a medical doctor, but as a survivor of emotional abuse myself. While the horrific actions of Robert and Michael Bever are absolutely inexcusable, we must face the dark truth. They were children, trapped in an inescapable psychological prison with zero support. A criminal mind does not develop in a vacuum. It is a rare event for someone to just be born nasty. It is far more often a broken, twisted response to unhealed trauma. When a human mind is pushed into that level of extreme survival mode, there is no room for calm, rational solutions. It becomes a primal, distorted question of life or death. As someone who has walked through the fog of abuse, this case deeply convinces me of how fundamental prevention, mental health support, and trauma awareness truly are. We must recognize these toxic loops and stop the abuse before the human mind breaks completely and turns into a monster. Please remember, this channel is my personal experience and what medically and spiritually worked for me to reset my nervous system and rewrite my reality. If you are struggling with your mental health, always seek the guidance of a licensed mental health professional. In the end, we can say that Robert and Michael Bever became the very monsters they were trying to escape. What are your thoughts on the Bever family murders? Do you believe the father's extreme abuse and domestic isolation is what fully generated their criminal minds? Let me know your perspective in the comments below. If this analysis brought you value, please smash the like button, subscribe to Dr. Noir, Criminal Mind, and Neuroscience, and share this video with someone who needs to understand the power of protecting their mind. Shield your brain and master your reality. Stay safe.